Hello and welcome to another session with Carlam Cymru. Today's session focuses on French GCSE and we will be looking at expressing an opinion and how to use adjectives. So bonjour, je m'appelle Madame Pritchard. I work at e-sgol Gymraeg Brodir. L'objectif aujourd'hui, c'est comment donner son avis en français et comment utiliser correctement les adjectifs. So, as I said at the start, the session will focus on how to give an opinion in French and how to use adjectives correctly. So you will have to give your opinion both orally and in writing in the French GCSE exam. So it's really important to build up a bank of statements and adjectives to be able to do this effectively. So let's get started. So quels sont les thèmes? Il est important de se préparer à tous les sujets et à tous les aspects de l'examen. Parler, écouter, lire et écrire. So it's really important that when you're preparing for your French GCSE exam, that you think about all of the themes that could come up. Between all of the elements of the exam, the speaking, listening, reading and writing, all of these themes will appear somewhere. So it's important that you do revise for each topic. And what you'll find is that these topics interlink and overlap. So for example, if you think about the topic of health and fitness, then this topic links in with entertainment and leisure, food and drink, festivals and celebrations. It could link up with technology and social media. It can link up with travel and transport and so on. Okay, and you'll see that once you start preparing for one theme, it makes it easier then when you prepare for the other themes because of the links it provides. And I've also done a session this year on recycling language, and that again goes through how each theme can be worked together with other themes. So, pour commencer, to begin, I've got a list here of sort of opinion sentence starters. So we have à mon avis, selon moi, d'après moi, pour moi, quant à moi, pour ma part, personnellement. And all of those really refer to in my opinion, according to me, okay? So what I would suggest is perhaps learning maybe 3 of those and then reusing them and recycling them then in different elements of the exam. We also then have sans aucun doute, peut-être, c'est possible, so definitely, perhaps, and it's possible. And perhaps if your teacher asks you your opinion about something, you could possibly start with that as an answer and then go on to give an opinion. So for example, que penses-tu des... No, sorry, no. Les devoirs sont une perte de temps. So homework is a waste of time. So you could then answer with sans aucun doute, definitely, or peut-être, perhaps, and then go on to justify why you think that. And we have, c'est évident que, it's obvious that. The middle column then we have phrases where you're offering your opinion. So for example, je pense que, je crois que, je trouve que is I think that, je veux dire que, what I mean is that, je dirais que, I would say that, il est vrai que, it's true that, je sais que, I know that. So for example there it could be I don't like doing homework, but I know that it's necessary, or something like that. Je n'aime pas les devoirs, mais je sais que ce sont nécessaires. And then we have je suis sûr que, I'm sure that. If you identify masculine, then you would just use the SUR. If you identify as feminine, then you add the E on the end there. And then we have je veux dire que, j'ai l'impression que. I have the impression that. What I would say is start off by learning 1 or 2, and then as you get more confident with using those, add on another one and then perhaps another one until maybe you have 5 or 6 different statements that you could reuse and recycle. And then finally here, oh, sorry, yes, I meant to say, many of these in this box here, they take the negative, they take the subjunctive when used in the negative. So if you say, je ne crois pas que, then you would need to use a subjunctive. But to be honest, what I tell my students is it's not the end of the world if you forget to use a subjunctive or if you haven't quite grasped the subjunctive. it would be more important at A level. They would expect it to be used more accurately at A level. But at GCSE, I don't tend to worry too much about the subjunctive. But I just wanted to let you know, because if you do have intentions of going on further with your studies, it's important that you remember that. And then the final column, we have j'adore, j'aime, je n'aime pas, je déteste. So given your opinion if you like or dislike something. J'admire, j'imagine que. Something me plaît, on m'intéresse. J'ai horreur de, and en ce qui concerne. So we start off with just I love, I like, I don't like, I hate, I admire, I imagine that. And then if you enjoy something or you're interested in something, and then if you really dislike something, and en ce qui concerne is a lovely little opening phrase to an opinion. So it would be regarding something. So for example, en ce qui concerne l'environnement, and then you would go on to speak about that topic. In blue there also, I've said you could include an adverb if you wanted to be a bit more specific, to add a bit more detail. So for example, j'aime beaucoup, j'aime bien, je n'aime pas trop, me plaît beaucoup, m'intéresse beaucoup, etc. And they just add a little bit more detail. Remember in the exam that when you look at the mark schemes, they want you to use a variety of language, and they also talk about complex language. So when you think, if you wanted to be more complex, using things like en ce qui concerne and something me plaît beaucoup and things like that, for me, that is using then a little bit more complex language than just saying j'aime. J'aime le sport me plaît. It's just slightly more complex to try to get those higher marks and higher grades. Okay, so that's starting off your opinion. Then the linking words would be parce que, car, puisque, to refer to the because bit, and then you give your reasons why. So what we're looking at next is some adjectives. So les adjectifs positifs et les adjectifs négatifs. These adjectives are more general positive and negative adjectives that you could use for a variety of topics. So for example, we have super, génial, fantastique, chouette, formidable, amusant, sensace, magnifique, agréable, sympa, intéressant, incroyable, drôle, marrant, fascinant, intelligent, extra, adorable, heureux, divertissant, merveilleux. Et puis les adjectifs négatifs, on a ennuyeux, barbant, embêtant, fatigant, nul, affreux, pénible, casse-pied, agaçant, bête, idiot, stupide, dégoûtant, fou, démodé, dégoûtant, difficile, dur, compliqué, et complex. Okay, so there's a variety of adjectives there which could be used in a number of topics. So these adjectives now are just masculine singular versions of the adjectives that you would find in a dictionary. Il existe des milliers d'adjectifs français, so there are thousands of French adjectives, and I'm not suggesting you try to learn every single adjective. I think that would be quite a challenge, but what I would suggest is that you try to learn as wide a variety of adjectives as possible, because in certain elements of the exam, such as the conversation and the essay and the written exam, you can use the adjectives that you know and you understand. However, in certain aspects of the exams, they may want you to know specific adjectives. Now, that could be in the role play, possibly. It could be in the translation exam, and in the listening and reading, definitely. So when they use a certain adjectives that maybe you haven't learned, you're going to have to try to work out what does it mean. So the more adjectives you can learn, the better. So, how to use adjectives now. So l'adjectif qualificatif s'accorde en genre et en nombre avec le nom, car il a le même nombre que le nom, il a le même genre que le nom. Okay, so if we look at this now, we're looking at masculine, feminine, and we're looking at singular, plural. Okay, so le genre, c'est masculin ou féminin, et le nombre, c'est singulier ou pluriel. Okay, and it's really important that for each noun you think about its gender and you think about if it's a singular or a plural noun, and then you have to agree the noun according to its gender and number. Now, a simplified version of this would be to say that if a noun, if an adjective is feminine, you add an E, and if it's plural, you add an S. And for many adjectives, that is the case. You add an E, you add an S. However, there are exceptions to the rule. So let's have a little look. So this is perhaps the easiest way to show you adjectival agreements, looking at colours. So if we look at the top here, we have jaune. So un cahier jaune, masculine singular. Une trousse jaune is feminine singular. Des cahiers jaunes is masculine plural. And des trousses jaunes is feminine plural. Now with jaune, because it ends with an E, similar to rose and rouge, the feminine version stays the same. And also then you've got the masculine plural is the same as the feminine plural. You simply add the S. However, for bleu, vert, gris and noir, they're slightly more complex because you need to add the E to bleu, vert, gris and noir. The plural form, we've just added an S to the masculine singular, and in the feminine plural, we've added an E and an S. So we have bleu, vert, gris, noir. Okay, so that's a simplified version of looking at it. However, even with colours, there are exceptions. So violet in the feminine adds a double TE, so violette. And then, of course, the masculine plural is violet and the feminine plural, violette. Blanc, again, is slightly different in that for the feminine version, we had an H, and then again, then that carries through to the feminine plural version as well. If we look at orange and marron, they stay the same throughout. They don't change because they're actually nouns as well. So a fruit, an orange, and marron is also a chestnut. So you wouldn't need to change if you were talking about anything feminine or plural with these adjectives. If we look at some little examples here now, we have un macaron bleu, une fleur bleue, des macarons bleus, et des fleurs bleues. So you can see there we've got masculine singular is just bleu, the colour you would find in the dictionary. Feminine singular, we've added an E. Masculine plural, we've added an S, and feminine plural, we've added an E and an S. And it's the same here with purple, violet. Right, comment accorder les adjectifs? So the first blocks here, the blue, is just masculine singular. So un chat noir, for example, is a black cat, un petit garçon, un beau con. Now then, if you look at the feminine singular version, they start with une rather than un, because they're a feminine noun. So we have une chatte noire, une petite fille. So what you see there in the green is that we've added an E to petite and an E to the noir as well, okay? If we look down then to the orange section, masculine plural, des chats noirs, des beaux cons. So this time we've added an S or an X. So for noir, we've added an S, and for beau, because it ends with a U, E-A-U, we've added the X to make it plural, okay? And then finally, the feminine plural, we have des chats noirs, so it's the same examples as at the top, but we've just added the S, so des chats noirs et des petites filles. So they're feminine, plural, so we've added the feminine endings and the plural, okay? So if we look at some examples, we could say for an opinion, je pense que le sport est important. So it's masculine and singular. Le sport, so important, the adjective just stays the same. Je pense que la cuisine est importante. This time we've referred to la cuisine, which is a feminine noun. So this time we've added an E to the adjective. And this slightly changes the pronunciation. We actually pronounce the T this time because it's not the final letter. So important becomes important, okay? And then we have the plural masculine. Je pense que les loisirs sont importants. So hobbies are important. So les because it's plural, and then important has a silent S on the end because it's also agreeing with the plural noun. And then the final one is feminine plural. So je pense que les langues sont importantes. So les langues is feminine plural. So we've added an E and an S. So we actually say the T this time, important. Another thing I've put in bold here, which is really important, is the difference between is and are. So if you're talking about something that is singular, you would just use is. So sport is important. Le sport est important. If you're looking at something plural, then les loisirs, hobbies, sont importants, are important. So remember that as well. Here are some more examples of different types of adjectives and how they change from masculine to feminine. So we'll start here with the easiest one, add an E, which you probably taught from year 7. So prudent becomes prudente and noir becomes noir. So we've just added the E. Ne change pas, don't change. We have sage to sage and triste, triste. So they don't change because they already end in an E anyway. Then we have the EAU and the OU ending. So beau becomes belle and fou becomes folle. Then we have the ER ending. So légère becomes légère, or léger becomes légère. Droitier becomes droitière. And then the S and the N, gros, grosse, bon, bon. So there's a double letter there. And this one, the F and the C, so vif becomes vive, bref becomes brève, blanc becomes blanche. And the final one, EAU, EUR, so heureux becomes heureuse, and boudeur becomes boudeuse. So you may have seen further examples of this. So for example, sportif, sporty becomes sportive. Paresseux, lazy becomes paresseuse. There are lots more examples, and I'm sure you've come across them in your time. So just learn as many as you can. What I want to show you now is that if you were really struggling with certain adjectives, say, for example, you forget the feminine version of beau, for example, is belle. What you could do is if you use c'est or ce sont, you don't have to use the feminine agreements with these. So, for example, la musique est amusante. So I've put the E on the end because musique is feminine. But if I wasn't sure of the feminine version of the adjective, to make my life easier, I could just say la musique, c'est amusant. And then we haven't got to worry about the feminine agreement. Another example with plural, les matières sont amusantes. So the subjects are fun. So there's an adjectival agreement with the E because it's feminine and the S. But if I said les matières se sont amusants, I don't need to worry about the feminine agreement. However, I still do have to think about the plural because it's ce sont, they are. I do have to put the S on the end to show that it's plural. So hopefully that's a little tip that might help you. Il existe des adjectifs irréguliers. We've just seen some of these, so they are just another few that do the double N, double T, double L, double S endings if you wanted to have a little look over those. And the next thing to look at is la place des adjectifs en français avant ou après le nom. So if you're describing a noun with an adjective, the majority of adjectives in French are placed after the noun, but there are some exceptions. So this little poster, which I just found on the internet, is a really good way of reminding you which adjectives can be before the noun. So it's called brags. The B stands for beauty. So we have beau, joli, so un beau livre. A stands for rank, premier, deuxième, troisième, etc. So le premier jour du mois. A is âge, jeune, vieux, nouveau, so un jeune homme, for example. The G stands for goodness, so bon, mauvais, meilleur et gentil, un bon film. And then S stands for size, petit, grand, gros, long, bref. So un petit chat, for example. So if we look here, I've just summarized it. Adjectives usually go after the noun in French, but there are exceptions. So here are some that go before. I've just basically taken some of these examples. Il y a un grand cinéma. C'est une jolie plage. Elle est ma meilleure amie. She's my best friend. So that's showing you an example of how these go before the noun. Okay, so il faut se préparer à tous les thèmes. So let's think about now preparing for certain themes. So earlier on, I showed you a big long list of positive and negative adjectives that are quite general, could be used in various themes. But you may also want to think about learning some adjectives for specific themes as well. So for example, if we think about the theme of food and drink, so you may want to think about learning adjectives such as délicieux, delicious, savoureux, tasty, dégoûtant, disgusting, affreux, awful, bon pour la santé, good for your health, sain is healthy, salé, salty, and sucré is sweet. So there's 8 adjectives there. So I would recommend maybe learning between 5 and 10 per theme. And then you've got a nice range then. And some of them you'll be able to use in different themes as well, not just in one specific theme. And another example, if we looked at the environment, we have important, dangereux, urgent, nocif, polluant, sale, propre, vert, durable, responsable, bio. So these are then certain adjectives that maybe would be useful for learning with regards to the environment. Okay, so if I were you, I would do that for each of the themes on the list. Okay. Also, the WJC have produced these subject knowledge organisers. I've mentioned these in most sessions I've done because I think they're great, and I really advise you to try to use them when preparing for your exams, and some of them will have specific adjectives linked to the theme. Okay, des conseils pour réussir à ces examens. So let's have a little look for your exams now. So for the oral exam, you'll have to give your opinion in the role play, the photo card, and the conversation. So I did a session on the photo card last year, which you could look back on from 2022. And I know my colleague Bethan has done a session on role plays this year, if you want to have a look at that as well. And they may really help you preparing for the speaking exam. And remember, pronunciation will be important. So the adjectives and the opinion sentence starters that you learn, make sure that you're able to say them and make sure you're able to pronounce them correctly. So let's have a look at some examples of the speaking exam. This is an example of a role play. So if we look here, it's asking you, give an opinion about a subject you don't like. You've also got to ask your French friend which subject he or she prefers. So again, it's linked to opinions. So for example, you could say, je n'aime pas l'anglais parce que c'est trop difficile, or je déteste les maths car c'est ennuyeux. Now, remember with the role play, you don't have to expand. Okay, you can keep it simple. You don't have to say c'est trop difficile. You could just say c'est difficile. Okay, for the higher tier, it is good to use complex language, but you can get 3 marks from just giving a straightforward, simple sentence. For the photo card then, we have here avoir un portable est important pour toi. Pourquoi ou pourquoi pas? So again, you have to give your opinion about mobile phones and you have to justify them. Okay. Now with the photo card, they will expect a little bit more detail. Not as much as the conversation, but more than the role play. So for example, you could say something like, j'aime bien mon portable car c'est super. Ma mère dit que je passe trop de temps sur mon portable, mais je ne suis pas d'accord. So we've given an opinion, I like my mobile, it's great. And then I've also given a third person opinion. So I've given my mother's opinion. My mother says that I spend too much time on my phone, but I don't agree. You could change that to je suis d'accord as well, I agree. Pour moi, un portable est très utile et extrêmement amusant. So mobile is very useful and extremely fun. And finally, je dirais que, je dirais qu'il est extrêmement important d'avoir un portable puisqu'on peut rester en contact avec ses amis. So I've given a reason here to support this statement. And je dirais que is, I would say that is a nice kind of complex language that will help you get those higher grades. And then this is the mark scheme for the photo card discussion. So you can see they're consistently able to express and justify thoughts, point of view, and exchange opinions in detail. okay? And if we look over here, excellent language, wide variety of vocabulary and structures. So rather than just saying j'aime, or à mon avis for everything, using a variety of those structures will ensure you can get the higher marks on the linguistic knowledge and accuracy section as well, okay? And they're complex structures. Then this is conversation. So in the conversation, you will have to give your opinion. And again, they're consistently able to express and justify thoughts, points of view, and exchange opinions in detail. And remember, pronunciation is very important, and the accuracy of your language. The writing exam, you'll also have to give your opinion, again on various themes. So accuracy this time of grammar and spelling will be important. So this is an example of a translation in the foundation tier. So we have, my father likes watching the rugby on television. And you also have there, do you like sport? So we've got opinions coming in twice there. So for example, if you wanted to say, my father likes watching the rugby on TV, so given someone else's opinion, mon père aime regarder le rugby à la télé. So remember, after aime, j'aime, or il aime, or any of those sentence structures, you use the infinitive then. So regarder le rugby à la télé. So that's a foundation tier example. This is also a higher tier example. So the opinion part is, the meal was delicious but too expensive, and I love films and I think that it's a lot more fun without my parents. So if we look at this, the meal was delicious but too expensive. Le repas était délicieux mais trop cher. So here's an example of where specific opinions, specific adjectives will be needed. Délicieux and cher. We're lucky here that le repas is masculine and singular, so we haven't got to worry about agreements. And then, I love films and I think that it's. So j'adore les films et je pense que c'est beaucoup plus amusant sans mes parents. Okay, so amusant is the adjective they've asked for, and je pense que there that we learned earlier. Something you can also think about learning for the opinions is using things like très, assez, trop, extrêmement, un peu, and they are really good for expanding your opinions as well. And then in the essay part of the written exam, again, you have to give opinions. So it says, justifie tes opinions. So justify your opinions. You have to say why. And they're asking for advantages, negative elements, and to say why, pourquoi. Okay. So this one, for example, is tourism. So I've said, les vacances sont fantastiques à mon avis, mais mes parents disent que ce sont vraiment chers. So I've given, again, a positive there and a negative to say that my parents say that they're expensive. Personnellement, je trouve les vacances relaxants. So I find holidays relaxing. And it's les vacances is feminine plural. So we've had the E there for the feminine and the S for the plural. And vraiment is another way of saying really. So like très, vraiment, cher. On peut passer du temps en famille, c'est super. We can spend time as a family, it's great. So that's the written, there's another written element, your opinions here of subjects and homework. This is a foundation question. Ma matière préférée est, j'aime bien l'histoire parce que c'est vraiment intéressant. Cependant, je n'aime pas trop la géo car c'est ennuyeux. I would try to give positive and negative opinions because you're really showing off then your range of language. We have here then about homework. Je crois que les devoirs sont une perte de temps, waste of time, mais aussi ils sont nécessaires, malheureusement, unfortunately. So even a word like malheureusement is giving your opinion because it's saying they're necessary, but you don't really like the fact that they're necessary. It's unfortunate that they're necessary. Okay, so that's a nice little word to throw in as well. And then opinions on attractions of town, transport, activities in town. So as you can see here now, even just from looking at this, opinions are coming in everywhere and in all themes, all different themes. So that's why it's important to prepare a bank of statements like à mon avis, je pense que, etc. But then also have a range of adjectives that you could use for different themes. So here I've said, j'adore nager dans la piscine en ville car c'est bon pour la santé et relaxant. Je crois que les transports sont assez fréquents. So remember, les transports is a plural noun. So I've used sont, are, and I've added an S to fréquent. And then finally, selon moi, il y a beaucoup d'activités en ville. Par exemple, le cinéma est chouette et la plage est très belle. Okay. And again, that's given different adjectives there. So just to finish here, remember now to prepare opinions on all those different elements and themes. So let's give it a go. Let's see if you can have a go. Allons-y. So traduisez les phrases suivantes. Could you translate these 3 sentences? So the first one is, in my opinion, my house is too small. So what I would do now is pause the recording, translate the sentence, and then press play and you'll see the answer, which is, à mon avis, ma maison est trop petite. So, à mon avis is a lovely phrase to learn, in my opinion. And then ma maison is feminine. So, petit has an E on the end and it becomes petite. And trop is too. How about, I don't agree, it's quite dangerous. So again, pause, have a go, and then press play. So I don't agree is, je ne suis pas d'accord. It's quite dangerous, c'est assez dangereux. Okay, so dangereux, dangerous, and assez is quite. And then finally, I like dancing because it's very fun. So if you pause, and the answer is, j'aime danser parce que c'est très amusant. J'aime, I like, danser, the verb, parce que c'est très, very amusant, fun. And let's have a go at answering some questions. So, répondez aux questions suivantes. Que penses-tu de l'uniforme scolaire? What do you think about school uniform? So again, I would pause now, answer it, and then press play. So I've said, moi, je pense que l'uniforme est une bonne idée et aussi c'est confortable. What I could have done there is put in a negative. Just to show both aspects. And remember, you could say things like de l'un côté, de l'autre côté, on the one hand, on the other hand, and things like that as well to give a balanced view. Tu aimes lire? Do you like reading? So if you pause, answer, and then play. Oui, j'adore lire, surtout les livres romantiques, car c'est relaxant. I love reading, especially romantic books, because it's relaxing. And then finally, il est important de rester en forme. Tu es d'accord? So it's important to keep fit. Do you agree? So my answer is, je suis d'accord. Il est essentiel pour la santé. Okay, so I agree. We've said here, I agree. It's essential for your health. What I would say here is these 3 answers are very brief. If you are preparing for the written essay of the conversation, I would definitely expand these answers and give a bit more detail. Okay, so finally, comment réussir? So how to be successful? I would say learn a variety of ways to express an opinion. So things such as, à mon avis, je pense que, and then learn a variety of adjectives on various themes, positive and negative. So to do with, you know, the environment, travel and transport, entertainment and leisure, technology, and so on. So you've got adjectives for each of those different themes. And then remember how to use adjectives. So are they masculine or feminine? Are they singular or plural? And do they come before or after the noun? So, back to the objective. L'objectif, comment donner son avis en français et comment utiliser correctement les adjectifs. So hopefully in this session, I have been able to show you how to give your opinion in French and how to use adjectives correctly. And I've shown you some examples of how it comes up in the exams. So just one thing I have to say, bonne chance, good luck. I really hope you're all successful in your exams and au revoir.